Yes. Motion, don't get kissed. My boy get kissed, dog. Oh, my boy. My boy, that's my dog, boy. Hey, I am you a fucking snitch, my ass, boy. I am you a snitch, my ass, boy. I am you a snitch.
I'm going to grant the state's motion for pretrial detention pending final hearing and hold you with no bond.
And Carter is being charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, and according to police, he does have a history of domestic violence.
That man standing in front of that judge just shot and killed his girlfriend's 2 brothers inside their own sister's apartment. Gianni Pierre, 28 years old, and Jaheim Pierre, 23, were both found dead on May 2nd, 2026 in Miami's Liberty City neighborhood, and the man who did it walked straight up to the police afterwards and told them everything. Before we get into what happened in that apartment, you need to understand who these brothers were, what kind of man their sister had been living with, and what it actually took for things to reach that point. Gianni and Jaheim Pierre were both from Miami, both tied to the Liberty City area, and both born on the exact same date, February 23rd. Gianni was born around 1998, and Jaheim came along 5 years later in 2003. Same day, different year. 2 brothers sharing one birthday, and as it turned out, they would share a death date too. That kind of detail hits different when you sit with it for a moment, because it tells you right away that these 2 were close in a way that went beyond just being siblings. People in the community described them as family-first men, the kind who showed up when they were needed and did not ask too many questions about it. Their sister, whose name has been kept out of all the public reporting because she is a victim of domestic violence, had been in a relationship with a 31-year-old man named Antoine Carter for about 4 years at the time all of this happened. The 2 of them lived together at 5329 Northwest 17th Avenue in Liberty City, sharing an apartment. 4 years is a long time to share a life with somebody, but the picture that came out of that relationship was not a good one. Police and the arrest affidavit both note that there was a documented history of domestic violence between Carter and his girlfriend. No specific dates or prior charges have been released publicly at this stage, but the pattern was real enough and serious enough that it became the direct reason why her brothers were at that apartment on May 2nd in the first place. She had reached out to them because she was afraid, and they came because that is what they did. The brothers arrived around noon on a Saturday. What they walked into was already tense because when there's a history like that in a relationship, there is always tension sitting under the surface waiting to break through. According to the arrest affidavit, things escalated when Jaheim got into an argument with his sister and Carter stepped in to interrupt it, and Jaheim punched him, which turned into a full physical fight between Carter, Jaheim, and Gianni. All 3 of them were in it. It was the kind of situation that, in most cases, ends with everybody going home angry and bruised and nothing more permanent than that. But what happened next is what separates this story from every ordinary argument that gets squashed and forgotten. While that fight was happening, the sister made the most reasonable decision she could have made at that moment. She stepped out of the apartment and went to ask a neighbor to call the police. She was trying to get help before things went further. When she came back and saw that Carter had already left the apartment on his own, she locked the front door. Her brothers were still inside. The fight appeared to be over, and she was trying to make sure Carter could not come back in and start it all over again. From where she was standing, the worst of it seemed like it was done. What she did not know was that Carter had not just stepped out to cool off. Security camera footage from that building captured him walking over to his black four-door car that was parked outside. The footage shows him reaching into the car, pulling out something that investigators would later confirm was his firearm, a 9mm Glock 43, and putting it into his front right pocket. Then he walked back toward the building. When he got back to the door and found it locked, that's when everything he had been building toward in that parking lot was about to come through.
The report says CCTV footage shows Carter yelling and banging on an apartment door. When it opens, quote, Carter then charged into the apartment as he reached into his front right pocket. Immediately after, several gunshots were heard. A woman then ran out bloodied. That woman told police Carter was her boyfriend who shot her brothers.
The security footage shows Carter standing outside that locked door, banging on it and pacing back and forth for several minutes. He was yelling loud enough that the whole hallway could hear him. According to the arrest affidavit, he was saying things like, open up, you soft-ass niggers. I bet one of you won't open up." The sister, who was now back inside the apartment with her brothers, could hear all of it. She told her brothers not to open that door as she knew what Carter was like when he got to that level, and something in her knew that whatever was on the other side of that door was not just another argument. Jaheim opened it anyway, and that decision cost him and his brother their lives. Maybe he thought another face-to-face confrontation was something they could handle the same way they handled the first one. Maybe he had no idea Carter had gone to his car and come back with a gun already in his pocket. Whatever he was thinking, the moment that door opened, Carter charged straight in. The arrest affidavit says that as Carter crossed that threshold, he was already reaching into his front right pocket, and immediately after that, several gunshots rang out and a woman was heard screaming. Gianni was sitting on the couch when the shooting started. He was shot right where he sat, no warning or time to move. Jaheim ran toward his sister, trying to get to her and put himself between her and the gunfire, and Carter kept shooting as he moved until Jaheim collapsed on top of her. Even in those last few seconds, Jaheim's instinct was still to get to her. She had her dying brother on top of her, his blood covering her feet and clothes by the time the shooting stopped. And then Carter sat down on the edge of the bed. He looked at his girlfriend, the woman whose brothers had come to that apartment because of the way he had been treating her, and he said to her, according to the arrest affidavit, "See what you made me do." She told him she had warned him to leave. Then she ran out. Sit with that for a second, because that line tells you everything you need to know about who Antoine Carter is. Not just what he did, but how he thought about it the moment after he did it. He shot two men multiple times in their sister's living room, and his first instinct was to tell her it was her fault. That's not someone who lost control in the heat of the moment. That's someone who, even standing in a room with two people he had just killed, still felt like the victim. The sister ran out of that apartment barefoot. When Miami police officers arrived after reports came in of gunshots and a woman screaming, she ran straight to them. She identified the shooter as her boyfriend of 4 years and told them that the two men inside were her brothers. She gave them everything they needed clearly and immediately, even in that state.
I made contact with a female, said that her brother shot on the second floor.
An arrest form says while detectives were investigating, a man approached and said, quote, "I'm the one. I have the firearm." Police arrested 31-year-old Antoine Carter, who they say had a gun in his pocket.
Carter walked up to the responding officers himself and said, "I am the one. I have the firearm." He handed over the loaded 9mm Glock 43 from his right pocket and let them take him into custody without a struggle. No running or trying to talk his way out. He just surrendered the weapon, told them he was the one, and let them put him in handcuffs. Miami Fire Rescue declared Jaheim dead right there in that apartment. He was found in the closet area where he had fallen, blood pooled around him. Gianni was still breathing when they reached him, and they rushed him to Ryder Trauma Center at Jackson Memorial Hospital, where he was pronounced dead a short time after arriving. Two brothers walked into that apartment to look after their sister, and neither one of them walked back out.
Died at the hospital.
There's probable cause for the charges. It looks like he shot and killed a girlfriend's two brothers.
Police say Carter's girlfriend's brothers went to check up on her, and when they arrived, got into a fight with Carter. According to investigators, they found Carter outside the building, who told them, quote, "I am the one," and the gun was found in his pocket.
When investigators processed that apartment, what they found lined up exactly with everything the sister had told them and everything that security footage showed. Multiple spent bullet casings and bullet fragments were recovered throughout the apartment, scattered across the whole space, not just one spot, which tells you Carter was firing as he moved and as the brothers moved. There was a pool of blood next to the couch where Gianni had been sitting. There was a second pool of blood near the closet where Jaheim ended up. The 9mm Glock 43 was already in police hands because Carter had handed it over himself. Every single piece of physical evidence told the same story that the sister and the camera had already told. Carter told detectives in his interview that when he went back inside, the brothers were standing there with their fists up, ready to fight again, and that is why he says he pulled out his gun and shot them. He told investigators he shot them several times. That was his version of self-defense. But there is a fundamental problem with that story. And the problem is that the security camera outside that apartment captured him pulling the weapon from his car and putting it in his pocket before he ever knocked on the door. He was not reacting to anything inside that apartment when he armed himself. He made that decision in the parking lot, with a locked door still between him and them. By Monday, May 4th, Antoine Carter was standing before Judge Mindy Glazer and Miami-Dade Circuit Court at a bond hearing. His mother was in that courtroom watching. He came in wearing the standard green jail vest. The judge reviewed the facts, found a probable cause for the charges, and was direct about what the evidence showed. Then she granted the state's motion to hold him with no bond.
Going to grant the state's motion for pretrial detention pending final hearing and hold you with no bond.
Carter entered a written not guilty plea and is being represented by the Miami-Dade Public Defender's Office. No statement has been made publicly on his behalf. He is currently being held at Turner Guilford Knight Correctional Center, which is the main Miami-Dade County Jail, with no chance of getting out before trial. He is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, and in Florida, that is considered a capital felony, which is the most serious level of crime the state has. What that means in practice is that if a jury finds him guilty, Antoine Carter is looking at either life in prison with no possibility of ever being released, or the death penalty. Florida law requires the full jury to agree before a death sentence can be handed down, but given everything that is already on record against him, 2 victims, a gun retrieved from his own car after the initial fight, and footage of him continuing to shoot as Jaheim ran toward his sister, prosecutors are not in a weak position here. What makes this case so difficult to argue against from the defense side is how much of the evidence came from Carter himself. He confessed on the scene. He handed over the weapon. He gave a statement to detectives that, rather than helping him, actually put his thought process on record. The Miami-Dade Police Department's arrest affidavit pulls together the security footage, the sister's full account, the physical evidence from the apartment, and Carter's own words, and those 4 things are telling the exact same story from 4 completely different angles. That is the kind of case that does not leave a defense attorney with a lot of room to work. This story is hard to sit with, not just because of what happened, but because of the pattern it fits into. In February of 2016 in Omaha, Nebraska, two brothers named John Edwards, 35, and Jason Edwards, 41, were shot and killed by their sister's ex-boyfriend while helping her move her belongings out of his house.
It was a full house at a church today. Loved ones saying goodbye to two brothers who were murdered last Friday.
John and Jason Edwards were helping their sister move her belongings out of the home of her ex-boyfriend when the ex turned on them in northwest Omaha. That made this chapter in the family's lives that much more painful, and Lena Tillett has more.
Sometimes the worst things in life can bring the best out in people.
At the funeral mass for John and Jason Edwards, it's clear the brothers had an impact on their community.
Jason and John, along with their families, have really touched a lot of lives here. It's overwhelming how many people know you and are touched by you.
An overflow room had to be set up as hundreds filled the pews at St. Columkill.
Shepherd me, O God, beyond my wants.
John and Jason leave behind very large families, wives, and 5 children between them. Though loved ones are grappling with profound loss, Father Dave Reeson shared what the brother's sister Julie asks of those mourning.
Julie reminded us that we must not allow hatred and anger and evil to win, that we must remember her brothers and celebrate their lives.
Instead, Father Reeson shared lighthearted memories from the family. John described as a prankster, Jason active with his daughter's sports. And the two brothers, they say, were inseparable.
When you'd see Jason, you'd ask, where's John? He has to be around here somewhere. You'd see John, where's Jason?
Though their lives were senselessly cut short, Father Reeson says it was time well spent.
Even the short time that we have here on earth, that Jason and John had here on earth, they did good, and their souls were found pleasing to God.
With photographer Mike Plews, Lena Tillett, WOWT 6 News.
Each brother left children behind. If you would like to help them out, funds have been set up. Donations to the Edwards Kids Funds can be made at any Bank of the Branch, or Bank of the West branch rather, or at First Nebraska Educators Credit Union.
The ex-boyfriend held all 3 of them, shot the brothers, then held his ex-girlfriend for hours during a standoff with police before taking his own life. Different city, different year, same tragedy. The pattern repeats because the dynamic repeats. The most dangerous moment in an abusive relationship is almost always when the abuser feels like he is losing control, whether that's because she is pulling away, because her family showed up, or because someone locked a door between him and her. That is the moment things go from bad to fatal. The community in Miami has been mourning Gianni and Jaheim since the day they were killed. More than 50 candles have been lit for Jaheim on his memorial page and nearly that many for Gianni. Their mother lost both of her sons on the same afternoon, and their sister is alive but carrying the knowledge that her brothers came because of her and didn't come back. Do you think Carter's confession changes anything about how this case goes when it gets to trial? Let us know what you think in the comments. Drop your thoughts in the comments and click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this. See you in the next one.